Top 5 tomato diseases and how to beat them for bigger yields. The silent killers destroying your tomato profits. Here are the 5 disease destroyers and your victory strategies. Disease killer number 3 is bacterial wilt, the invisible underground assassin. The third disease enemy, and perhaps the most insidious because it operates invisibly underground, attacking roots and vascular systems before any visible symptoms appear, is bacterial wilt, a bacterial pathogen that lives in soil and enters plants through wounds in the roots or through natural root openings, then multiplies explosively inside the plant's water-conducting vessels, eventually producing such massive bacterial populations that they physically block water movement, causing sudden dramatic wilting and death even though soil moisture is adequate. The crucial reality of bacterial wilt is that by the time you see obvious symptoms, wilting plants on a hot afternoon, the disease is already advanced and irreversible in those plants, having been secretly multiplying underground and inside stems for 2 to 3 weeks before visible symptoms appeared. The financial destruction from bacterial wilt is uniquely devastating because, unlike foliar diseases, where you lose leaves and fruits gradually, bacterial wilt kills entire plants suddenly and completely. A field that looks healthy in the morning shows 30 plants wilted by evening, and within 1 week, 100 plants are dead, representing lost income of 150,000 to 250,000 shillings that seemed fine just days earlier. Therefore, understanding bacterial wilt's unique biology reveals why it is so difficult to control and what strategies actually work against this underground assassin. The bacteria survive in soil for years, even in the absence of host plants, waiting for opportunities to infect new crops. They are favored by warm temperatures, about 25 degrees Celsius, and moist soils, making them particularly problematic in tropical and subtropical regions during rainy seasons. Once bacteria enter root through wounds caused by transplanting, cultivation, or root feeding insects, or through natural root openings, they invade the xylem vessels that transport water from roots to leaves. Inside these vessels, bacteria multiply exponentially, doubling their population every 30 to 60 minutes under favorable conditions. Within 2 to 3 weeks, bacterial populations become so dense that they physically clog vessels, and simultaneously the plant's defense responses to infection cause additional vessel blockage. The combined effect is that water cannot move upward even though roots are in wet soil, causing the sudden wilting that gives the disease its name. Early symptoms include slight dropping of youngest leaves during hot afternoons with recovery overnight, but this progresses within days to permanent wilting, yellowing, and death. A diagnostic test confirms bacterial wilt. Cut a wilted stem near soil level and suspend the cut end in a glass of clean water. If after a few minutes you see cloudy white bacteria streaming or oozing from the cut surface into the water, you have bacterial wilt. The battle strategy for bacterial wilt is challenging because once plants are infected, there is no cure. No chemicals can eliminate bacteria already inside plant tissues, making prevention through cultural practices absolutely critical. Begin with the most important bacterial wilt prevention measure: field selection and rotation. Never plant tomatoes in fields known to have bacterial wilt history unless at least 4 to 5 years have passed without solanaceous crops like tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, potatoes. If you must use infested fields, implement soil solarization before planting. During the hottest season, thoroughly wet the soil, cover with transparent plastic sheet, and seal edges with soil. Solar radiation heats soil under plastic to 50 to 60 degrees Celsius, killing bacteria at depth up to 30 centimeters. Maintain solarization for 6 to 8 weeks, then remove plastic and plant immediately before bacteria recolonize from deeper soil layers. This intense treatment costs 50,000 to 80,000 shillings per acre in plastic and labor, but can reduce bacterial wilt incidence by 70 to 90% in infested soils, making planting possible. Select resistant varieties if available. While true resistance to bacterial wilt is rare in tomatoes, some varieties show tolerance, producing reasonable yields even under disease pressure when susceptible varieties die completely. At planting, minimize root wounding by handling transplants gently, transplanting into moist, not waterlogged soil, and avoid any cultivation or weeding that injures root during the first 4 weeks of establishment, when plants are most vulnerable to infection. Implement drip irrigation rather than furrow or flood irrigation because bacterial wilt spreads in water moving through soil. Keeping water localized around plant bases rather than flowing through entire fields dramatically reduces disease spread. Control root knot nematodes aggressively because these microscopic worms create root wounds that serve as bacterial entry points. Soil applications of nematicides or organic amendments like neem or neem cake reduce nematode populations, lowering bacterial wilt infection. During the growing season, scout field daily for wilting symptoms, and when you identify infected plants, immediately remove them completely, including all roots, and critically remove soil within 30 centimeters of the infected plants. It's because this soil is heavily contaminated with bacteria. Never compost bacterial wilt infected plants or leave them in fields. Burn them or dispose far from any tomato production areas. Disinfect all tools used near infected plants by dipping in 10% household bleach solutions before using elsewhere in the field. These sanitation measures seem tedious, but they are essential because bacterial wilt spreads from plant to plant, primarily through contaminated soil, tools, and water. Some farmers report success with biological control using antagonistic bacteria like Pseudomonas fluorescens applied as soil drenches or root dips at transplanting. This beneficial bacteria colonize roots and suppress pathogenic Alstonia through competition and antibiosis, reducing infected rates by 30 to 50%. While not as effective as soil solarization, biological control costs only 5,000 to 10,000 shillings per acre and can be combined with other measures for integrated management. Troubleshooting bacterial wilt challenges requires accepting that if your field has severe bacterial wilt history, killing more than 30% of plants annually, you should seriously consider abandoning that field for tomato production for at least 5 years, because the economic losses from bacterial wilt, that is losing 150,000 to 250,000 shillings per 10% mortality, quickly exceeds any profit potential. If you experience bacterial wilt sporadically with just 5 to 10% losses, intensify your sanitation program, removing infected plants immediately and improving drainage, because waterlogged soils dramatically increase disease severity. If certain field areas consistently show higher bacterial wilt incidence, mark these hotspots and avoid planting there, creating permanent pathways or planting alternatives crops in those zones. If transplants wilt within 2 weeks of planting, consider whether they were already infected in the nursery. Bacterial wilt can be nursery transmitted, so source transplants only from clean nurseries with no bacterial wilt history. The harsh bacterial wilt truth is that, unlike fungal diseases that can be controlled with fungicides, bacterial wilt has no chemical control, making avoidance through field selection and rotation your primary and often only defense. Fighting bacterial wilt in heavily infested soils is a losing battle that will bankrupt you. Subscribe to this channel and click the notification bell. We publish comprehensive agricultural guides, disease management videos, variety reviews, troubleshooting contents, advanced techniques, and farmer success stories weekly. Contents potentially adding thousands of dollars to your annual farming income. Return regularly because agricultural science continuously advances and evolves. New research, refined management techniques, innovative solutions emerge constantly, and improved storage strategies emerge constantly. Consistent learning separates continuously improving farmers from those stuck in outdated methods. Remember to like this video, comment with your story and commitments, share with your farming networks, subscribe for weekly agricultural education, and return on notifications. Your engagement transforms not just your farm, but entire agricultural communities worldwide. Together, we are building a global movement of prosperous, sustainable farmers, proving that with knowledge and commitment, agricultural prosperity is achievable for everyone. Welcome to your farming transformation. Let's make it extraordinary. Top 5 tomato diseases and how to beat them for bigger yields. Disease killer number 4. Click the link on the description below and watch this inspiring strategy. Thank you.